Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today you can see I'm still in my temporary headquarters down here in the basement. But I've also got a special and unusually short back issue haul today because I'm going to be showing off some romance comics, but not just any romance comics, because today we're starting not just one, but two different quests. So let me play the special graphics here. It's time for a quest! And yes, it's time for a quest, two different quests. I'm also going to talk a little bit about how I'm handling my romance collection at the time. As you know from my previous videos, I've been having some trouble with some breathing stuff due to the mustiness of all of my accumulated comics. The most musty part of my collection is the romance collection. It's made me really stop and think about how I want to do romance. And one thing I've very reluctantly decided to do is I had been trying this crazy thing where I was going to try and get complete runs of all of DC's big 7 romance titles, which is something on the total of like 900 different romance comics, going all the way back to Young Romance #1, which is a book that costs hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And so we're looking at a thing that's going to, another 10, 20 years. I've decided to sort of give up on that. It was a difficult decision because obviously I love the romance, but it's mainly about how I collect comics because I am a completist. I want the complete runs. But with a lot of titles, I'm doing that because I want to read the series. And while I do enjoy reading romance, frankly, a lot of the DC romance books are very formulaic, they're very repetitive, and they're not that interesting. And so I've been buying hundreds of romance books that I've never read and will probably never get around to reading. And yes, it's great to own them, and I get a big satisfaction not just finding them, but also checking them off my checklist and knowing that I own them. So there is an element of pleasure that I get from that. And I love pulling them out once in a while and looking at the covers, so that's another really cool thing to do. But it started to feel like, what am I really doing that for? So I'm changing the way that I'm collecting romance comics. It's very difficult to change my mindset here. When I first got into romance comics, I got a bunch of advice about how to do it because there's so many. And what I was going to try and do is just collect the keys. Some for the stories, like the Vietnam stories. And I say keys, but what are keys to me, because there's very few like agreed upon keys, particularly in Silver and Bronze Age romance. So I went through them all, I identified the issues that I knew I wanted, and since then I found others that I didn't know that I wanted, but I do. And I've been working really hard on that checklist, but in the meantime I've also just been grabbing everything. And I'm going to try and basically go back to my original plan. So rather than get a complete run of everything from DC, I'm going to just cherry pick the specific things that I want. So that's going to mean specific covers that I really like and certain specific stories that might be famous or infamous. And for me, it's also going to mean collecting the various ongoing serialized soap operas and the ongoing features within the romance comics. So that means things like, for instance, April O'Day Hollywood Starlet. I'm gonna keep those. Reach for Happiness, 3 Lives, 3 Loves. There's a couple others. There's a couple that aren't really quite exactly ongoing soap operas, but are continuing things like Amy Ames, Relationship Advisor, stuff like that. And so I'm gonna keep all of those runs because I really enjoy the long form soap opera format. I'm also going to keep, again, the covers that I really like, and I'll also be keeping stuff from my collection that's in higher grade. I mean, part of the point is that romance is really hard to find in high grade, but when I get them in high grade, they're not going to be musty and they're not going to bother me. So I don't have a lot that are in high grade. Part of the problem is I've just been buying anything in any condition, and I have dozens and dozens and dozens of really low grade, very stinky, water damage and stuff romance books. So those are all, I'm getting rid of all of those. But I'm going to keep these specific runs. But there's 2 other runs that I am going to try and complete, and that's where the quests come in. because I'm very excited to announce the 2 titles I've decided to continue collecting in their entirety: Young Love and Young Romance, both of which were the original romance series from Simon and Kirby, and then DC bought them out in the early 60s and continued the numbering. Those are the 2 runs that I've decided to keep and complete. In both cases, thanks to the issues I'm going to show you now, in both cases, I'm actually in Quest territory. I have less than 10 issues to go for each of these runs. So let's start with Young Love. I just got a pile of them in right here. And we're going to start with issue 63. There was a lot of covers from this era where they were having the big figure in the foreground. Here's Young Love 65. We're going to see several different logos just as I go through this, because here's issue 76 with a different logo. They didn't keep that one too long. Here's 92 with Mark on the Man's side, a big 25 center. And 96, another 52 big pages with Mark on the Man's side. So these 5 issues bring me down to just 7 left. I'm only missing 7 issues of Young Love. The series ran at DC for 88 issues. I now have 81 of those. We're going to put up I'll put up here on the board the checklist that I'm missing from Young Love, so we can all see that. But it's not just Young Love. I've also made a bunch of progress on Young Romance. Now, I have gotten 4 issues of Young Romance. One of them I don't have to show you because it was smelly when I got it, and so it's down in my stinkiness quarantine bin in the cat litter box while I decide what to do with that. What I think I'm going to do with these is I do have particularly Young Romance that have a lot of lower grade issues that are musty. For now, I am going to keep them, but I'm going to be making, after I've finished all of the rest of this process, I'm going to go through these titles that I'm keeping, Young Love and Young Romance. I'm going to identify the ones that are musty. I'm going to try and work on the mustiness with various techniques that I've gotten from you guys, but I'm also going to be looking for upgrades. So I'm going to be trying to get higher conditions because I do want to complete runs of both of those titles. So I'm going to treat these as run fillers for now, and I'm going to get the higher grade, less musty, nice copies when I can. Again, it's very hard to find these issues in nice condition. Here is a 167, which is pretty nice. They have it listed in fine. I don't think it's quite there, but it's pretty close. A low grade 183, where there's writing on the cover. There's also writing on the cover of the other one that I got, which is 186. And the one that I don't have to show you that I got at the same time is 144. So let me put this up on the board, the Young Romance. Let me put the Young Love one back up here. You can see the 2 quests that we have here. So I've got now 81 out of 88 issues of Young Love. I'm missing 8 from Young Romance, so I currently have 76 of the 84 issues DC put out of Young Romance. I'm not missing any keys in either of the titles, with the exception of minor key Young Romance 157, which has the My Mother, My Rival cover by Nick Cardy. That's a bit of a minor key. It is harder to find and more expensive than the issues around it. But I've passed on several low-grade copies already. I'm trying to find one a little bit nicer. So we're going to try and hold out with these last ones I'm missing to get the nicer ones, because I don't want to then just have to replace them later. So these quests may take a little while, but I'm really excited to get these down. And then I'll probably do another video about the process of going through my romance collection. I'm trying to document for you guys who are going through similar things with your collection exactly what the process is that I'm using for my downsizing, and I have a specific process for the romance books that I'm going to be using. So when I do that, I'll make a video so you can watch that. But for now, thanks very much for watching, and let me know what you think down below about these books and about my romance stuff and just the collecting in general. And I'll see you next time.